Welcome, Patriots, to the Raw Feed. My name is Brett Siegel, filling in for the great Gary Franchi. I always broadcast to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm always free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, and your rubber baby bunker busters. And we've got an explosive show for you today. We're coming live to you on YouTube, streaming to millions worldwide, and simultaneously broadcasting on Rumble and X. Love that technology. But you have to be careful. You need to follow us on all the big tech platforms, and you need to make sure that you are hearing all the information that we are about to reveal. You know, what sets us apart from every other news source is that we are interacting with you, the viewers, in the live chat. We want your reactions to today's earth-shattering news. So fire up those keyboards and let us know what you think. Share this stream right now via text message. That's really the best way to go if you want to bypass the big tech algorithms that stop us from getting this message out. For our ex viewers, repost this to show your followers immediately. We need every patriot hearing this truth. Speaking of interaction, we will be reading your super chats and Rumble rants between segments and featuring them on screen for the world to see. Send them in right now, even before we dive into the news. Your voice matters, and we want to hear it. Now, on this day in history, June 25th, we look back to 1950, when North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel, beginning the Korean War. President Truman had to make swift, decisive military decisions to protect American interests and our allies. Does that sound familiar? Because today, 75 years later, we are witnessing another president making bold military moves that are reshaping the world order. Now, just like Truman faced down communist aggression, President Trump is obliterating nuclear threats and forcing our allies to pay their fair share. It's week 22 of Donald Trump's triumphant return to the White House, and what an incredibly amazing week this has been. A lot of people are making money on the news right now. NATO just bowed to Trump's demands for 5% GDP defense spending. Iran's nuclear program lies in ruins. The big, beautiful bill is delivering the largest deficit reduction in American history. And the fake news media, they're having an absolute meltdown trying to spin defeat from victory. Today, we're bringing you 5 massive stories that prove that Trump isn't just changing policies, he's changing the course of human history, literally. From the Hague to the Middle East, from our southern border to the halls of Congress, winning is becoming America's new normal again. If you want to support this show privately, hit those donation links in the description. We always appreciate that. We're funded by patriots like you, not corporate big tech government political overlords. Every dollar helps us bring you the unfiltered truth that the Communist News Network and MSDNC, we're bringing you the news that they won't touch. And speaking of support, if you want to show off your favorite news source, check out our merch shop, linked in the description at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Wear your support proudly. For those who want to go a little bit deeper, join our YouTube channel memberships. Each level comes with its own perks. You'll receive special acknowledgments in the chats, unlock exclusive access to the Next News team, get behind-the-scenes uploads, and join our exclusive Discord for members-only 24/7 chat. Real news, real community, real patriots. We're about to expose how Trump forced NATO to finally pay up after decades of freeloading. We're going to reveal the complete obliteration of Iran's nuclear facilities that has set the established media in a panic mode. We're going to show you the big, beautiful bill that is putting thousands back in Americans' pockets while securing our border. And we're going to expose the treasonous leakers trying to undermine American military success. This is not just news. This is history in the making. Not American history, not world history. We're talking about human history. Trump promised peace through strength, and he is delivering it in spades. The world is watching. The establishment is trembling, and America is winning again. It's so beautiful. So buckle up, patriots. Pour yourself a cup of freedom-loving coffee, get comfortable, and prepare for a ride through the most consequential developments of our time. The truth is coming and nothing can stop it. Let's welcome you in the chat. All right. Let's see it. Just the Hamas leader, the people that are losing their families of innocent people and children don't want. Oh. Every dang president before Trump just let America get robbed while they aided and abetted, says Delinda. I totally agree with you. Absolutely insane. Overeducated, overeducated, you going to be on Discord tonight. N3 Discord is popping. Yes, absolutely true. Our Discord every night is a fun. We joined last night. We had a really great time. Definitely join the Discord. Karen Finley says, "We love you, Brett. You are doing great." Thank you, Karen. We love you too. And we are going to have a great show tonight. Hi, Brett, from Cindy, watching from Buffalo, New York. Hi, Cindy. It's good to see you again. Deanna says, buckle up. That's right. It's going to be a wild show tonight. Gary is going to be popping in just a few minutes. Overeducated SP. I've already drank a pot, Brett. Well, let's hope we don't get a little bit of this going on tonight. Just be careful tonight. Be careful with that. Don't go too hard on the sweet Joe. Mrs. Pothead Kenny, you're doing awesome, Brett. I really truly appreciate that. Wonderful. All right, let's get to this trivia question. In 1987, President Reagan famously said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." At which location that would be later come symbolic of American strength defeating communist oppression? A, the Berlin Wall, Brandenburg Gate. B, the Kremlin in Moscow. C, Checkpoint Charlie. Or D, the Warsaw Embassy. I think I know which one. I think I know the answer to this one. I think I do. But show us in the chat. Let us know what you think. Don't Google it. Don't cheat. Don't use Chat GPT. Come on, do this from memory. Behind closed doors at The Hague, President Trump just pulled off the impossible. While eating breakfast with Dutch royalty, he was orchestrating NATO's total surrender. By 9:41 a.m., when his motorcade rolled past the International Criminal Court, the same ICC he's sanctioning, Trump had already won. NATO Ambassador Matthew Whitaker dropped the bombshell. Every single NATO member just agreed to 5% GDP defense spending. That's incredible. Finally, they're paying their fair share. That's not a typo. From 2% to 5% in one summit. Literally, all he had to do was show up. Presidents since Eisenhower begged Europe to pay their fair share. And they laughed, they stalled, and they freeloaded off of American taxpayers for 75 years. But when Trump speaks, even NATO's Secretary General salutes from the podium and admits it's all thanks to him. The free ride is over. Now, here's the hard truth. Every 6 years, your dollar loses half its buying power. That means a $100,000 savings account today will feel like $50,000 by 2031. It's supposed to move the other way. Now, if you see, and you're going to see it every time you go to the tank, you're going to see it when you buy groceries, you're going to see it when you pay the bills, buy toys for your kids, or maybe, God forbid, take a vacation once in a while. You know, prices are up, dollar is down. But here's a simple way to protect the value of your savings with something real, something proven. Gold. An asset that holds its value over time. That's why when I make some money, I will be investing in Noble Gold Investments. You know, they make it simple to protect your savings with physical gold or silver. No high pressure sales, no call centers, just honest guidance, one-on-one support, and transparent pricing. And right now, when you open up a qualified account, Noble Gold will send you a free 10-ounce silver American flag bar as a thank you. I really want one of those. So head to nextnewsgold.com to learn more. That's nextnewsgold.com. Don't just protect your wealth, preserve its power. All right, now let's watch Gary on the scene at NATO from earlier this morning. Take a look.
I'm Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network, reporting from inside the International Media Center at the NATO summit in The Hague. Behind me, the summit is at full throttle. Camera crews, reporters, intelligence officers, all packed shoulder to shoulder, chasing a cascade of developments that could shape the future of global peace or war. Now, it's a bright and sunny day outside in The Hague, but don't let the calm skies fool you. The undercurrents of the summit are electric. President Trump began his day at the Royal Palace, waking as the guest of King Wilhelm Alexander and Queen Maxima. From there, he headed straight into diplomacy mode. Breakfast with the royals, then a private pull-aside meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. His motorcade rolled out of the palace grounds at 9:30 a.m., skirting past the International Criminal Court, the same ICC facing sanctions from the Trump administration. A few dozen onlookers lined the route, catching a glimpse of the beast through the trees, though the president himself was not visible. And by 9:41 a.m., the motorcade arrived at the World Forum, the venue for this NATO summit. And while the press didn't see the President Trump step out, he did make his presence known another way, posting online about the beautiful Netherlands, a great breakfast with the royals, and the critical talks ahead. Now, that was only the beginning. The real story was already moving. So, let's begin. And just before arriving, President Trump surprised reporters aboard Air Force One with a briefing. The big news, the Israeli military backed off a planned raid at the last moment, a move that Trump credits to the ceasefire that he brokered. Take a look.
Everything good. Israel, as you know, turned back. They didn't do that raid this morning, fortunately. That was a big thing. Appreciate it. They had a lot of planes going, and they were going to do something, and they didn't do it. We're happy about that. Very happy about that. So the ceasefire is very much in effect, and I think we're going to keep it there for a long time.
Did you speak? Now, that's not just diplomacy, that is control. Trump didn't just stop bombs from dropping. He kept the peace alive on the eve of this summit. And for how long? Well, that's what we're all here to find out. Now, in the same gaggle, President Trump dropped another bombshell, one that didn't explode but echoed a possible deal with Russia. Watch.
You know, I'd like to see a deal with Russia. As you know, Vladimir called me up. He said, "Can I help you with Iran?" I said, "No, I don't need help with Iran. I need help with you." And I hope we're going to be getting a deal done with Russia.
That is the Trump doctrine on full display. While NATO talks war, Trump talks deals. Peace through strength, peace through negotiation. And no one else here is even uttering the word deal. When asked about Zelensky, Trump didn't hesitate. His response, direct, grounded, and brutally honest. Watch.
Do you think you'll meet with Zelensky when you're there?
Yeah, probably. I'll see him. Yeah.
What would you say to him?
Say, how you doing? He's in a tough situation. Should have never been there.
Should never have been there. Trump cuts through the propaganda and reminds the world that this war should never have started. He's not here to coddle. He is here to course correct. And when Trump finally landed, the first thing he did was put on that unmistakable USA hat. Watch that moment. No speech, no teleprompter, just that red, white, and blue cap, a symbol of American grit. And Trump arrives as the embodiment of America first, and everyone at this summit saw it. Then came the family photo, the traditional show of unity. Trump center stage, flanked by Erdogan, while Zelensky finally swapped out his war clothes for a proper suit. Watch.
That's not allowed. You know it.
Can we take photos for the president?
Nope.
These aren't official photographers.
They're closed.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, guys.
Donald Trump looked like the quarterback of the free world. Zelensky, well, he looked like a man who finally read the room. And meanwhile, Trump's NATO ambassador, Matthew Whitaker, was already laying down the administration's biggest demand, 5% GDP defense spending from every NATO member. Take a look at this.
Tomorrow, we expect that all 32 NATO allies will agree to a new path. And that path, that commitment, is going to be 5% of their GDP on defense. And, you know, it is historic. It is probably one of the biggest foreign policy wins of this administration, of any administration. And then we're going to spend the time building out the capacity and the capabilities of the United States, and especially our allies here in Europe, so that they can take over the traditional defense of the European continent and allow the United States to address the challenges that we face globally from our adversaries. But at the same time, you know, our allies want to be part of this alliance with the United States. Yeah. And we at the same time need to address all of our security challenges. And so that's why we're looking for this commitment. That's why our allies are going to deliver this commitment, because it's not just about what the United States want. Ultimately, it's what they need as well. It's what their not only economies, but their societies demand. They want security, and they have to step up. For too long, Europe has been taking advantage of the American taxpayer to provide their traditional security here on the continent. And it's just that time is over. President Trump's been very clear about that. And this is the moment where they are finally going to commit to doing that. Presidents since Eisenhower have been telling Europe they need to take over their own security. And so President Trump has delivered that. But that's a familiar refrain, whether it's the nuclear program of Iran or so many other things. President Trump delivers what these promises that politicians of the past couldn't deliver.
Now, that's not a goal. That's an ultimatum. And Whitaker wasn't bluffing. Trump has done what no president before him could do, force NATO to pay up and step up. Even NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte had to give credit where it's due. This isn't just a policy shift, it's a quantum leap in collective defense. Watch.
So we now know exactly what forces, resources and capabilities each ally needs to provide. This will require a quantum leap in our collective defense. But I know that when there is a will, our world-class industries and entrepreneurs will find a way. This will also require bold decisions from our political leaders. And that's what we will do at the summit tomorrow, with an ambitious new defense investment plan to spend 5% of GDP for defense. This will mean a huge defense dividend, an engine of growth for our economies, driving literally millions of jobs on both sides of the Atlantic. NATO's leaders are about to take an historic step to provide the resources necessary for strong defense. And now it's up to industry to deliver, and yes, to deliver. So let's get to work.
Millions of jobs, trillions in spending. But is it peace or just more fuel for the war machine? Then, at dinner, he said it out loud. NATO has already added $1 trillion in defense spending over the last decade, and the person he credits for that? President Trump. Watch.
It will also be a massive achievement in making NATO fairer. For decades, the United States sought to get Europe to truly step up. Now, European allies and Canada will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So let me salute President Trump's long-standing leadership in calling for NATO to increase defense spending. Today, I am pleased to announce that NATO has already added an additional $1 trillion in defense spending over the past decade. Mr. President, dear Donald, that is thanks to you pushing us. And tomorrow we will build on that foundation and add trillions more in defense spending, because we need to do this.
Now, you saw it right there. He saluted Trump from the podium, and that should tell you everything. Trump isn't a disruptor here. He is the architect of this moment. Now, back home, CNN is still doing CNN things. Aaron Burnett described Iranians chanting death to America as friendly. Watch.
Israel stays in place. And that is part of the discussion, right?
Yes, absolutely part of the discussion. And, you know, I remember, Dan, at one point being in Tehran years ago, and they're chanting death to America all around me, even as I say, oh, I'm an American reporting for CNN, and they were happy to speak to me. So that those two sort of jarring realities of the chant and yet the friendliness have existed together. But I am hearing from some in Iran that I have not heard this from before, a sense of deep uncertainty about the future and of what happens next, and also of what the role is of the supreme leader. Now, we've heard that he's 86. We know his health has been ailing, but that in this moment where everything that he has stood for and put Iran on the line for, which is giving up economic future, giving up so many bright stars who have left the country, all in the pursuit of a nuclear program designed to counter Israel, right? That all of that being put on the table has, for the first time from some, I have heard, what was all of this for? What was all of this for when the leaders, the religious leaders of this country have focused on things like women's hair and what they wore? So, you know, it's unclear how far things like that will go, how much of that is emotion in a moment that is exhausting and stressful and has meant a lot of failure for Iran, or how much of this is something bigger. But in the context of a regime change, the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, being in a bunker underneath Tehran because he was at fear of his life when this deal was done, and perhaps being out of contact with the people who had to make the deal is something that, as we look back on this moment, may end up being a very significant reality that as the timeline plays out and we see where this goes, we look back and say, okay, that was something very important.
Now, that's what passes for analysis in the U.S. media. No wonder Trump has to do it himself. No one in the legacy press is telling the truth anymore. And, of course, it gets worse. CNN then published leaked top-secret battle damage assessments, compromising national security and undermining the mission. Watch.
About the battle damage that resulted from those U.S. military strikes on these 3 Iranian nuclear facilities over the weekend. And as you said, it was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months. Now, we presented this information to the White House for comment, and White House Press Secretary General Leavitt, she did acknowledge the existence of this assessment, but she said in a statement that the administration disagrees with it. She said, quote, "This alleged assessment is flat out wrong and was classified as top secret, but was still leaked to CNN by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets, total obliteration." Now, it is worth noting here that there has been dissent, I should say, within the intelligence community, within the defense community, about just how much of an impact these massive bunker buster bombs would actually have on Iran's nuclear facilities. It was far from certain, given that these bombs had never been tested in an actual combat scenario, whether they would actually penetrate those very, very deep underground tunnels that lie underneath these nuclear facilities. And what we are told is that as of now, this Defense Intelligence Agency assessment, it does conclude at this point, again, it is still very early, that those underground facilities, including the centrifuges, including the highly enriched uranium that everyone has been talking so much about, those are largely intact. Now, of course, this does stand at odds with what President Donald Trump and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth have been saying in recent days about the impact of these U.S. military strikes. Of course, President Trump said it was totally obliterated, and Secretary Hegseth did as well. And he actually also provided CNN with a statement And he said that, quote, based on everything we have seen, and I've seen it all, our bombing campaign obliterated Iran's ability to create nuclear weapons. Our massive bombs hit exactly the right spot at each target and worked perfectly. The impact of those bombs is buried under a mountain of rubble in Iran. So anyone who says the bombs were not devastating is just trying to undermine the president and the successful mission. Now, our sources did emphasize here that there was severe damage that was done largely to the above-ground structures at these nuclear sites. And so there was damage done, of course, by these massive bombs. But the core components of the nuclear program, we are told, they are largely intact, and it only set the program back by a matter of months.
They handed our enemies the blueprint for clicks. This wasn't journalism. It was sabotage. And Steve Witkoff, special envoy to the Middle East, he didn't mince words. He called it what it is, treason. Watch.
We're talking about with this leaked intel report.
Well, it goes without saying that leaking that type of information, whatever the information, whatever side it comes out on, is outrageous. It's treasonous. So it ought to be investigated, and whoever did it, whoever's responsible for it, should be held accountable. It could hurt lives in the future. Leaking is a completely unacceptable thing. But let me give you, because I've read all the damage assessment reports from not just our government, but from other governments. And I'm not going to get into anything that's top secret, but let me tell you for sure what happened here. There are three distinct facilities in Iran that we were concerned with. Isfahan, which is a conversion facility. You cannot weaponize unless you have what's called the conversion process at the beginning of enrichment, and then a conversion process to metallicize.
Now, he's right. This leak didn't just hurt diplomacy. It endangered American lives, and whoever did it must be held accountable. And finally, a moment of gratitude from the unlikeliest of places. Billboards across Syria saying, "Thank you, President Trump." Watch this.
That is now the 6th poster billboard that we have seen since arriving here thanking President Trump.
They're thanking him for lifting punishing sanctions and normalizing relations between the U.S. and Syria.
I love you, Trump. I love you, Trump.
In small letters in the right-hand corner, a Syrian-American lobby group, Global Justice, co-founded by Mesa Kabani.
I want to show you this one, which is after the liberation, it was our new slogan, "Make Syria Great Again."
When the dictatorship of Bashar al-Assad fell, Kabani began shuttling back and forth from her home in Philadelphia to Damascus. She met with President Trump and Syria's new leader, Ahmed al-Shara, pushing for that historic meeting between the two presidents. For President Trump, she had her sales pitch ready.
I told him our new slogan is "Make Syria Great Again," and hopefully we're going to see Trump Tower in Damascus soon. So he was laughing. So I don't know. I felt that we can do it. And I feel that, this is the way how we're going to approach President Trump. His personality actually is different than any other president. And we need to talk to the people based on what they like to hear. And he likes to hear that.
The Middle East is watching, and they're saying two words: thank you. Why? Because Trump didn't just drop bombs, he opened doors. Now, this summit isn't just history in the making. It's Trump's doctrine in action. The ceasefire he brokered, still holding. The haters back home, still lying. And NATO, still moving in the direction that he demanded. Now, peace through strength isn't just a slogan. It's a strategy. And this is the battlefield of ideas. I'm Gary Franchi, reporting for the Next News Network, deep inside the NATO summit grounds. We are your America First eyes and ears behind these gates. So stay sharp, stay bold, stand for peace, and keep watching, because we're not done yet.
Well, it looks like Donald Trump is the only person in the world who could make Zelensky put on some actual, respectable clothing for the event that he's attending right now. I mean, the guy's not. Ukraine is not a NATO member. They're not even an official ally, of course, for a photo shoot. I mean, look, if you're going to tell me that this doesn't bode well for Trump, that he was actually able to get Zelensky to put on some clothes, I don't know. Just hand me some of whatever you're smoking. All of this matters. is because for the last 75 years, your tax dollars have been used to subsidize Europe's socialism while they laugh at us behind closed doors. No more. Trump has just secured trillions, with a T, for European defense, money that stays in American pockets. That's real money for real Americans, not welfare for wealthy nations who've been playing us for suckers. The establishment said it couldn't be done. The experts said that demanding 5% would destroy NATO. Instead, Trump destroyed their narrative and built a stronger alliance that actually pays its bills. This is what happens when you send a businessman to do a politician's job. But here's the real question. Should America even stay in NATO? Not even though they're finally paying up, should we actually just bail? Should we take the money and run? Drop your answer in the comments, yes or no. And while you're fired up, check out our Next News merch shop, linked in our description. Wear your patriotism proudly. Now let's see what the chat room has to say. Jeremy Olson says, Shiites. I totally agree with you. This is some wild stuff. Karen Finley says, yes, leave NATO. I totally agree. I'm not entirely sure what the draw is at this point. We clearly have them by the short and curlies. Lisa says, here, Brett, take a hit of this joint. I don't participate in that heathenry. Robert Lockhart says, the advancement and diffusion of knowledge is the only guarantee of liberty, says James Madison. Listen, it's amazing how our forefathers spoke. When you think about the way that the world is, that the country is right now, when people who are going into college can't even read or write, and the poignancy, the utter literacy of our forefathers, just the way they wrote and spoke to each other, it's absolutely incredible. Scon Detect says, thank you, N3, for all the help. For all the help in these heavy days. I love the N3 family. We love you too. Thank you for showing up. Jeremy Olson said, I heard Todd laughing. Todd, Uncle Todd, keep your joy to yourself. Kurt Peterson, I do not think NATO helps the U.S. It brings the U.S. into other countries' problems that should be dealt with independently. I couldn't agree with you more. They need us more than we need them. And this is the thing that I believe Trump is, he's on the cusp of making this clear to most Americans. Most Americans think like, we need the NATO, We don't really need NATO. NATO needs us. If we didn't show up to NATO, it would be like, when Trump didn't show up to the National Prayer Breakfast. It just wasn't the same. What is he going to do? Go in there and show up so that a bunch of like half-witted comedians could basically make fun of him and demagogue him, and he's going to do the self-flagellating thing where he participates in the propaganda against him? No. I think when he got shot at, he learned a few important life lessons, even at his age. They said he was destroying our alliances, but what just happened at NATO proves that Trump plays chess while everyone else is playing checkers. Watch what happens when American strength meets European weakness. In a stunning moment of honesty, NATO's Secretary General called President Trump exactly what he is: the boss who finally made Europe pay up. After decades of freeloading, after years of broken promises, NATO just committed to 5% GDP defense spending. That's unheard of. That's trillions of dollars with a T. The same leaders who laughed at Trump's demands are now scrambling to write checks. This is domination. The art of the deal just became the art of total surrender. Now stay locked in. With President Trump's Made in America agenda eyeing import tariffs, the race for secure domestic supply just hit overdrive. Copper is charging back towards last year's records. You don't have to scavenge your power lines, okay? Copper is charging back with a record, hovering around 4.85 cents a pound as global stockpiles scrape 15-year lows. Enter Giant Mining Corp, ticker BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Their 9,800-acre Majuba Hill project sits in mining-friendly Nevada, right beside highway, rail, power, gas, and fiber. Recent drilling delivered a 170-foot copper zone averaging 0.4%, capped by a 10-foot streak running 4.4% copper. This kind of punch is what majors pay billions for. Engineering firm RESPEC is already fast-tracking the first NI 43-101 resource. So Majuba could leap from a drill rig to development while rivals get tangled in new red tape. In a super cycle where projects that move fast win, Giant Mining checks every box. Discover more at giantminingcorp.com, on the OTC at BFGFF in the US and BFG in Canada. Now, let's watch our trusty leader, Gary Franchi, at NATO one more time. Take a look.
I'm Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network, reporting live from outside the White House secured hotel in the NATO's summit security zone in The Hague, Netherlands. It's a sunny evening here, but don't let the calm skies fool you. The undercurrents are absolutely electric. The summit has seen major changes in NATO's defense posture and the alliance's relationship with the United States. And today, we witnessed a historic shift. Earlier, President Trump took a major step forward in demanding that NATO nations commit to spending 5% of GDP on defense, a move that Trump has been advocating for years. And while NATO leaders now prepare to embrace his bold shift, we're already seeing the fruits of Trump's leadership in real time. So let's dive in. Yes, in a strategic pull aside with reporters earlier today, President Trump made it absolutely clear NATO's defense spending is about to skyrocket. After years of asking for 5% GDP, NATO members are finally committing, and that is absolutely huge. Watch the moment.
We're with them all the way. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, we're with them, and they have very big things to announce today. I don't know if you've taken the vote or you're going to take the vote, but I've been asking them to go up to 5% for a number of years, and they're going up to 5%. That's a big, from 2%. And a lot of people didn't even pay the 2%. So I think it's going to be very big news. NATO is going to become very strong with us.
Now, this is not just a policy shift. This is Trump's doctrine in action. NATO, once resistant, is now forced to comply, and it's happening because of Trump's relentless push. This is a victory for America, a victory for peace through strength. And it did not stop there. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte took a moment during the press conference to praise Trump's decisive action, specifically on the Iran ceasefire. And he called Trump both a man of strength and a man of peace, acknowledging that NATO's recent commitments would not have happened without Trump's leadership. Take a look.
Let me first, before I go to spending, I just want to recognize your decisive action on Iran.
Thank you.
You are a man of strength, but you're also a man of peace. And the fact that you are now also successful in getting this ceasefire done between Israel and Iran, I really want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
And I think this is important for the whole world. Then on spending, it's absolutely true. I want to state here, without President Trump, this would not have happened. In 3 stages. When you became president in 2016, 2017, you forced Europeans and Canadians to pay more. At this moment, the result of that phase is $1 trillion extra aggregate defense spending by the Canadians and the Europeans. Then came phase 2, when you became president in January last year. Phase 2 is that all other countries not yet on 2% have now committed to the 2%. This is the old goal from Wales in 2014. 7 were not on 2%. Some were saying somewhere in the 2030s. Now this year, all of them, including Canada, including Italy, including Belgium, they have all now committed to the 2%. And now comes the big splash. Today, we will decide to go to 5%. We have to keep ourselves safe from our adversaries, but also because it is fair to equalize with the United States. With this 5%, the Europeans and the Canadians will equalize their defense spending with the United States. So this is not about American taxpayers paying more. This is about Europeans, Canadians paying more. And again, this would not have happened. I'm really saying this here. And some people might criticize me, but then when I speak with them, they all say, yes, you're right. This would not have happened if you would not have been elected in 2016 and re-elected last year and back into office in January. So I want to thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, that is not just flattery. That is the global recognition of Trump's impact. $1 trillion in additional defense spending from European allies since 2016, thanks to Trump's unwavering pressure. And today, NATO leaders will finally pay up for their decades of inaction. But Trump's focus wasn't just on NATO's defense spending. When asked about the Iranian nuclear threat, President Trump made it absolutely clear that Iran won't be allowed to enrich uranium. And he reaffirmed that America will not let Iran cross that line. Watch.
What is your response to the Iranian foreign minister continuing to say Iran will enrich uranium and pursue nuclear weapons?
Well, I don't know if they've said that, but I'll tell you, the last thing they want to do is enrich anything right now. They want to recover. And we won't let that happen. Number one, militarily we won't. I think we'll end up having somewhat of a relationship with Iran. I see it. Look, I've had a relationship over the last 4 days. They agreed to the ceasefire. And it was a very equal agreement. They both said, that's enough. They both said it. But no, they won't do that. The last thing they want to do, Katie, is enrich. They're not looking to... They're not... Can you imagine after all of that, they're going to say, oh, let's go and do a bomb. There could be a day in the future and then somebody else taking our place will be saying, don't do it. And maybe they won't do it as well. I don't know. But they're not going to have a bomb and they're not going to enrich. And we believe all of the stuff is down there. We don't think they had nearly the time, because to get that out is a very difficult thing. It's not like moving a package or taking this carpet up and moving it. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous to do. We believe it's all down there. We had a tremendous victory, a tremendous hit, and because of that, I don't think they would have been down there, because they knew we were coming. When they know we're coming, they're not going to be down in that 30 stories underground. So no, I think it was just a tremendous victory for everybody, including Iran. Look, they've got a country, and they've got oil, and they're very smart people, and they can come back. Israel got hit very hard, especially the last couple of days. Israel was hit really hard. Those ballistic missiles, boy, they took out a lot of buildings. And they've been great. Bibi Netanyahu should be very proud of himself. And they've really been great. But they're not going to be building bombs for a long time.
This is why Trump's leadership matters. He's not just talking, he's taking action. The Iranian nuclear threat has been neutralized because of Trump's decisive strikes, and the world is safer for it. And when asked about the success of the operation that took out Iran's nuclear facilities, Trump didn't hold back. He called it obliteration. And the results speak for themselves. Trump's military strategy didn't just hit hard, it decimated Iran's ability to produce nuclear weapons. Watch.
We hear it was obliteration. It was a virtual obliteration. When you take a look at the ground above, don't forget, the flame is all underground. But everything above, if you look at the before and the after picture, everything above is burned black. The trees, everything. There's one building, but that's a building that sunk substantially into the granite, so that, the fire goes right over it. I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken 2 weeks maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming. And if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there. There aren't too many people that are going to be down there. Pete, do you have something to say about that?
Well, Mr. President, when you talk to the people who built the bombs, understand what those bombs can do, and deliver those bombs, they landed precisely where they were supposed to. So it was a flawless mission.
Flawless.
Right down where we knew they needed to enter. And given the 30,000 pounds of explosives and capability of those munitions, it was devastation underneath Fordow. And the amount of munitions, 6 per location, any assessment that tells you it was something otherwise is speculating with other motives. And we know that because when you actually look at the report, by the way, it was a top secret report, it was preliminary, it was low confidence. All right, so this isn't, you make assessments based on what you know.
It said it could be very devastating, very serious.
Moderate to severe, and we believe far more likely severe and obliterated. So this is a political motive here.
This is Trump's brand of leadership, swift, decisive, and strategic. Iran's nuclear ambitions are in ruins, and the world is watching as the U.S. reasserts its dominance on the world stage. Senator Marco Rubio, he called out the leaks from intelligence sources which sought to discredit Trump's strike. And Rubio made it clear, Iran's nuclear program is set back by years because of Trump's inaction. And there's no question about it. Roll it.
First of all, on the stuff about the intelligence, this is what a leaker is telling you the intelligence says. That's the game these people play. They read it, and then they go out and characterize it the way they want it characterized, and they're leakers. This is the game they play. So that's number one. Number two, here's a fact. The conversion facility, which you can't do a nuclear weapon without a conversion facility, we can't even find where it is, where it used to be on the map. You can't even find where it used to be because the whole thing is just blackened out. It's gone.
It's wiped out.
It's wiped out. Then we dropped 12 of the strongest bombs on the planet right down the hole in 2 places. Everything underneath that mountain is in bad shape. And I refer you to the statement of the IAEA, Mr. Grossi. You know what he said? He said there was Iran, the way it looked the day before the attack, and what their nuclear program looks like now. 2 very different things. They are way behind where they were just 7 days ago. Now, anything in the world can be rebuilt. But now we know where it is, and if they try to rebuild it, we'll have options there as well. But all this leaker stuff, these leakers are professional stabbers. That's what they are. They go out and they read this stuff, and then they tell you what it says against the law, but they characterize it for you in a way that's absolutely false. There's no way Iran comes to the table if somehow nothing had happened. This was complete and total obliteration. They're in bad shape. They are way behind today compared to where they were just 7 days ago because of what the president did.
The leakers? Irrelevant. The truth is undeniable. Trump's military genius has set Iran back, and the world is safer for it. NATO's push for more defense spending, well, that's a direct result of Trump's relentless drive to make America strong again. And President Trump also took a moment to praise the military pilots who carried out the strike. But as always, he didn't hold back when it came to the media, calling out CNN, MSDNC, and the New York Times for downplaying the success of that mission. Watch.
This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration.
That is the Trump that we know. Relentless, bold, and unapologetic. He honors the troops, he holds the media accountable, and he delivers results. And when Trump made his entrance at the World Forum for the NATO summit, it was clear he wasn't just attending, he was leading. Watch.
The Honorable Donald Trump, President of the United States of America.
No speeches, no grandiose gestures, just Trump in full force. The embodiment of America First and NATO's most critical voice. So today wasn't just another summit. It was the Trump doctrine in action. A leader reshaping the global stage with strength, honor, and decisiveness. As security rolls out and the summit continues, President Trump came here to make NATO stronger, and he did. He came here to stop wars before they start, and he did. Now, as we wait for the final statements and the press conferences, one thing is clear. NATO is changing, and Trump's fingerprints are all over it. So stay tuned. Peace through strength is no longer a slogan. It's the reality that we're living in today. As a member of the White House media delegation, I'm traveling with President Trump, witnessing firsthand the unfolding decisions that will shape the future of global peace. I'm Gary Franchi, reporting for the Next News Network, deep inside NATO's security zone. We are your eyes and ears at this summit, bringing you the unfiltered truth from the front lines of diplomacy. So stay sharp, stay bold, and remember, the world is watching, and we're going to bring you every moment of this historic journey. Keep watching. The battle for peace begins here.
That was our fearless leader, Gary Franchi, reporting from The Hague at the NATO summit. Quite an amazing turn of events here. I also want to give a thanks to Squeeze a Lot for some super chats, and Tom B420 doing great. Brett and Todd, Gary, Angie, Brian, N3 for life. Thank you so much. We always appreciate your super chats. Now, this is what real leadership looks like. You know, for decades, Europe built their socialist utopias on the backs of American taxpayers, and it cost millions and millions and more millions of lives. You know, they enjoyed their 6-week vacations while our workers paid for their defense. You know, they lectured us about diplomacy and political correctness while we protected them from the world's enemies. It's a con game that just ended, arguably forever. Trump didn't negotiate, he demanded. He didn't ask, he told. That's what the leader of the free world does. And when NATO's chief praised Trump's decisive action and credited him for forcing Europe to finally pay up, he exposed the truth that everyone knows. America runs this show, and Trump just collected the bill. Not because we're the strongest, but because we're the goodest. The establishment said that demanding 5% would destroy NATO. Not that that would be a bad thing, but it didn't. Instead, Trump saved it by making it fair. That's exactly what happens when you elect a businessman instead of a politician. Results instead of excuses. We discussed this yesterday. Trump builds skyscrapers while the rest of the world is creating wooden shacks. Now, here's the question. Should Trump demand 10% next time, or is 5% enough? Yes for 10, no for staying at 5. Sound off. Now, remember, support America First journalism at our merch shop. That's shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Now let's go to the chat. By the way, I just want to thank you for all of the super chats. We really, really love it when those come in. Let's see. Vicky said, in my opinion, the best response that President Trump gave the reporter was what he said about the continued strikes between Israel and Iran before he boarded the helicopter. It was spectacular. I agree. President Trump always has a way. He's got a way with words, doesn't he? You know, he lets you know what he's thinking without letting you know exactly what he's going to do. And to me, that makes that's real leadership. That's when you know you're dealing with someone who is playing fourth dimensional chess against other people who are just playing Connect 4. Shirley says, congrats on your trip to the Prague. I assume you received an official invitation to travel with the president. And the answer is yes. Yes. Gary doing a good job too, says Kibbs Ellis. And Todd Siegel says, our producer says, Brett, like Gary, makes my job easy. I'm going to throw a big fat you're welcome to my baby brother and producer of this show. Bill Hassanai says, yes, 10% with half going to the U.S. to make up for cheapening out for so many years. Goodness gracious, that is such a good idea. I'm a little bit jazzed about that. That sounds like a great idea. Brand47 says, Trump makes skyscrapers, the left makes sheds. I would say the left tries to destroy sheds. Not that they could go against one of Trump's skyscrapers, but I mean, to throw a Molotov cocktail at a little wooden hut, you know, look, Mom, I'm saving the world. Get off it. Now, Mark Rutte called Trump daddy for a reason. While NATO scrambled to write trillion-dollar checks, Trump was busy doing what real leaders do, ending wars with nothing but a phone call. When Trump sent 52 fighter jets to violate the ceasefire with Iran, one called from Trump brought them home. That's the daddy energy. That's the big D energy that Europe finally admits that they need. To be honest, what have they done with the place? It's a beautiful place, but what have they done with the place? It's being overrun by radicals. Trump didn't just stop the escalation. He had already obliterated Iran's nuclear program so completely that Israel confirmed that it's been destroyed for years. Like it's incredible. No 20-year occupation, no nation-building disaster, just American bombs, American strength, and American victory. The same president NATO calls daddy just proved that you can project power without projecting weakness. The warmongers hate him because he makes their endless wars look like the scam they've always been. You're going to want to keep watching. Now, just as Trump brings truth to foreign policy, the Tuttle twins bring truth to your children's education. While Syrian kids learn about American strength bringing peace, what are your kids learning? Freedom is never more than one generation from extinction. That's why the Tuttle twins create liberty-first content teaching real economics and responsibility, not woke propaganda. Their monthly magazine shows kids how free markets create prosperity, why peace through strength works, and what real American values look like. While the establishment indoctrinates, Tuttle Twins educates. Subscribe for just $56 a year at TuttleTwins.com/next. Teach them to think critically about the world and what Trump is doing to reshape it. Now let's have a look at Gary's final hit from NATO. Take a look.
Gary Franchi here, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network, reporting live from inside the White House secured hotel within NATO's high-security perimeter in The Hague, Netherlands. It's still a sunny evening outside, the calm after the storm as the NATO summit enters its final phases. President Trump has already made his mark here, and the consequences of his actions are still rippling through global diplomacy. Now, as we speak, the world's most powerful nations have committed trillions in defense spending. But peace still hangs by a thread. With Russia's aggression still very much in the picture, NATO leaders are scrambling to figure out their next moves. Earlier today, in back-to-back press conferences, Trump and Mark Rutte both made major announcements, setting the tone for what will likely become a defining moment in the future of NATO and U.S.-European relations. Now, we're going to take a closer look at what exactly went down at the summit today. Now, President Trump, he did take the stage earlier, highlighting the precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities. He called it a massive success and even dubbed it obliteration. Take a look.
As you know, last weekend, the United States successfully carried out a massive precision strike on Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, and it was very, very successful. It was called obliteration. No other military on earth could have done it, and now this incredible exercise of American strength has paved the way for peace with a historic ceasefire agreement late Monday, and we call it the 12-day war. Spoke to a few people. I guess that just sounded like the right name. It was a 12-day war. And we think it's over. I don't think they're going to be going back at each other. I don't think so. Not only have we dealt decisively with the critical threat of Iran's nuclear program, which was what I wanted. I said Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've said that for 15 years, long before I decided to do the political thing. But we've also reasserted the credibility of American deterrence, which is like no other. The people at NATO said there's never been anything. You know, I rebuilt the entire military during my first term. And we have a great military. We have great generals. I got to know the good ones and the bad ones. We kept the good ones.
That is American strength in action. Trump didn't just stop a nuclear threat. He set the stage for peace. No other military in the world could have done this. And with that action, Trump is now pushing a historic ceasefire, ending the 12-day war between Iran and Israel. In his press conference, Trump took the opportunity to point out NATO's historic shift on defense spending. After years of resistance, NATO members are finally committing to a 5% GDP defense spending goal, thanks to President Trump's leadership. Take a look.
Over the past 2 days, I was honored to participate in the NATO leaders meeting and also had extremely good individual discussions with the King and the Queen, Secretary General Rutte and the Prime Minister. Great discussions. very knowledgeable people. Major focus of our conversations at the summit was the need for other NATO members to take up the burden of the defense of Europe, and that included the financial burden. As you know, it was 2%, and we got it up to 5%. And they said, a couple of them came up to me, one in particular said, "Sir, we've been trying to get it up to 3% for 20 years, and we haven't been able, and you got it up to 5%. So they're going to be, most of them, I guess almost all of them, are going to be contributing now 5%, a number that people are surprised at, but you need it today. The United States accounts for 2/3 of all NATO defense spending, and since I began pushing for additional commitments in 2017, believe it or not, our allies have increased spending by $700 billion. I said to people, you don't have any money, and a lot of them weren't paying. And so I started the process, and I picked it up as soon as I got back, which is 6 months ago. And following my election last November, almost all have accelerated plans to reach the 2%, 3%, 4%, and then ultimately, very quickly, 5%. And all of this is going to be done very quickly, almost immediately. You probably know this as well as I do. I'm sure they've been talking about it. It's really been a big focus. In a very historic milestone this week, the NATO allies committed to dramatically increase their defense spending to that 5% of GDP, something that no one really thought possible. And they said, "You did it, sir, you did it." Well, I don't know if I did it, but I think I did. This will be known as the Hague defense commitment, which is pretty good, pretty appropriate. When the allies reach this number, it will add more than $1 trillion a year. Think of that, $1 trillion per year to our common defense. And this is a monument really to victory, but it's a monumental win for the United States, because we were carrying much more than our fair share. It was quite unfair, actually. But this is a big win for Europe and for actually Western civilization.
Now, this is a game changer. NATO has finally stepped up, but it wasn't until Trump forced their hand. This is a monumental victory for the United States and for America first, and for global peace through strength. Then Trump read a letter from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel confirming that the U.S. strike on Fordow successfully destroyed Iran's critical nuclear infrastructure. Take a look.
A letter just came in, and a statement came in from the Atomic Energy Commission of Israel. And I just wondered, this is an official letter, and they're very serious people, as you know. The devastating U.S. strike on Fordow destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility totally inoperable. It was devastated. We assess that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons for many years to come. This achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material, which it won't. It's so sad that whole thing had to go. But I just want to thank our pilots. You know, they were maligned and treated very bad, demeaned by fake news CNN, which is back there, believe it or not, wasting time, nobody's watching them. So they're just wasting a lot of time, wasting my time.
Now, this wasn't just a strike. This was a strategic victory that set Iran's nuclear ambitions back for years. Now, Trump's decisive action has made the world safer, but he is not stopping there. When asked about the impact of the American strike, Trump made it clear the damage was obliteration. And he didn't just hit Iran's nuclear facilities, he crippled their ability to build bombs for a generation. Watch.
This is also, Iran made the statement. And it's also, if you read the document that was given, that Pete can talk about if you'd like, the document said it could be very severe damage, but they didn't take that. They said it could be limited or it could be very severe. They really didn't know, other than to say it could be limited or it could be very, very severe. And you didn't choose to put that because it was very early after. Since then, we've collected additional intelligence. We've also spoken to people who have seen the site, and the site is obliterated. And we think everything nuclear is down there. They didn't take it out.
That is the Trump doctrine. Strike hard, strike fast, and neutralize threats. America first, always. Then, in a bold move, Trump spoke with absolute confidence about the Israel-Iran ceasefire. After a devastating conflict, both sides were ready to pull back, and he said, and Trump's intervention made that possible. Watch.
You just said you believe the conflict between Israel and Iran is over. What makes you so confident it is? And what do you do if it isn't?
Because I dealt with both, and they're both tired, exhausted. They fought very, very hard and very viciously, very violently, and they were both satisfied to go home and get out. And can it start again? I guess someday it can. It could maybe start soon. I think a big telltale sign was when, as you know, Iran somewhat, by not much, violated the ceasefire, and Israel had the planes going out that morning, and there were a lot of them, 52 of them. And I said, you got to get them back. And they brought them back. They didn't do anything. They brought them back. It was very good. I thought it was amazing, actually. They have fought a hell of a war. They fought very hard. I think the war ended, actually, when we hit the various nuclear sites with the planes. And I just hope you people can give these pilots, these are the best pilots in the world. They're the best shots in the world. They call them shots. That's what they are. And wait a minute. And I just hope you can give them the respect they deserve, because they came home to fake news. And like, oh, gee, there was hardly any damage. The things are decimated. So, but I think, no, I think they're very much finished. I think Israel's going to get back to doing what they do, and I think that Iran's going to get back. You know, Iran has a huge advantage. They have great oil, and they can do things. I don't see them getting back involved in the nuclear business anymore. I think they've had it. They've been at it for 20 years, and I don't see that happening either. Now, if it does, we're always there. It won't be me. It'll be somebody else, but we're there. We'll have to do something about it.
He's not just a president. He's a peacemaker, and he didn't just broker a ceasefire. He forced both sides to the table. That's a diplomatic victory that NATO can't take credit for. Now, in the heat of his press conference, Deborah Haynes from Sky News, she asked Trump about Mark Rutte calling him daddy earlier that day. Trump's response, classic Trump, straight to the point with no hesitation. Watch this.
Go ahead, back, white, yeah. White jacket, yeah. Go ahead, give my mic.
Hello. Deborah Haynes from Sky News. Mark Rutte, the NATO chief, who is your friend, he called you daddy earlier. Do you regard your NATO allies as kind of children?
No, he likes me. I think he likes me. If he doesn't, I'll let you know. I'll come back and I'll hit him hard, okay? He did it very affectionate. Daddy, you're my daddy.
Do you regard your NATO allies, though, as kind of like children, and they're obviously listening to you and they're spending more, and you're obviously appreciative of that. But do you hope that actually they're going to be able to defend themselves, defend Europe on their own?
I think they need help a little bit at the beginning, and I think they'll be able to, and I think they're going to remember this day. And this was a big day for NATO. You know, this was a very big day. They took it. One of the gentlemen said, you know what, we've been trying to raise the rate for 30 years, he said, 20 years, from almost the beginning. And he's been there for a long time. He said, until you came along, it never happened. What you did is amazing. It's been sort of an amazing day for a lot of reasons, but also for that. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think they can do it without you, though, in the future? Can they do it without you?
Well, ask Mark. I mean, you have to ask Mark.
Trump's confidence is unparalleled. He's here to lead, not coddle. He took Rutte's affectionate comment and turned it into a reminder that he is the one in charge setting the stage for NATO's bold new direction. And Rutte didn't back down either. In his press conference, he gave Trump credit for his leadership, admitting that without him, NATO would still be stuck at 2% defense spending. Watch this.
The language that you have used when talking to Donald Trump has been notable because of its flattery. Today you called him daddy, and you sent a text message to him that was gushing with praise. Is this the way that you feel that you have to act when doing business with the US president, through flattery and praise? Isn't it a bit demeaning, and doesn't it make you look weak?
No, I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a question of taste, but I think he's a good friend, and when he is doing stuff which is forcing us to, for example, when it comes to making more investments, I mean, would you ever think that this would be the result of this summit if he would not have been re-elected president? Do you really think that the 7 or 8 countries who said, yeah, somewhere in the 2030s we might meet 2%, we've now all decided in the last 4 or 5 months to get to 2%? So doesn't he deserve some praise? And when it comes to Iran, the fact that he took this decisive action, very targeted, to make sure that Iran would not be able to get its hands on a nuclear capability, I think he deserves all the praise.
This is the kind of leadership that Trump has brought to NATO. It's not just about what's said, it's about what is delivered. Trump's strength is why NATO is finally stepping up. Meanwhile, Rutte spoke about NATO's unwavering support for Ukraine as NATO members pledge billions to strengthen its defense industry. Watch.
Together, allies have laid the foundations for a stronger, fairer and more lethal NATO. NATO leaders agreed on the Hague Defense Investment Plan. This will fuel a quantum leap in our collective defense. They agreed to boost our defense industries, which will not only increase our security, but will also create jobs. And we have reaffirmed our unwavering support for Ukraine. All of this is crucial. It means that no matter the challenges we face, whether from Russia or terrorism, cyber attacks, sabotage or strategic competition, this alliance is and will remain ready, willing and able to defend every inch of Allied territory.
Now here is the dangerous side of NATO's push: prolonged conflict in Ukraine. Trump's vision of peace is now at odds with NATO's vision of endless investment in Ukraine's military at the expense of Europe's peace and prosperity. So this summit has changed NATO forever. Thanks to President Trump, the 5% defense spending commitment is a game changer, but the road to peace is not paved with billions in military aid. NATO's true objective might not be peace, but endless war, something that Trump won't stand for. This is Gary Franchi for the Next News Network, bringing you the truth from inside the perimeter of the NATO summit. Stay tuned, stay bold, and as always, keep watching.
NATO. Daddy has been away at work, but he has come home. You have misbehaved. You did not do your chores. It is time for you to be bent over Daddy's knee and to receive the spanking that has been coming to you for quite a while. And as the tears start to roll, believe me, Daddy will cradle you in his ample bosom and hold you when the tears come. Trump just showed NATO exactly what strength looks like. 12 days, 3 nuclear sites completely obliterated. You know, they say he likes to use that word a lot. I like to use that word too. You know, 1 ceasefire that holds, and 52 fighter jets turn around with a single phone call. That's not diplomacy. That's good parenting. That's fatherhood. Daddy. And I'm old enough to remember that NATO officials are not the first person to call Trump daddy. I'm old enough to remember Milo Yiannopoulos begging to be adopted by Donald Trump. The establishment wanted another Iraq. The military-industrial complex wanted another Afghanistan. Instead, Daddy Trump delivered what they said was impossible. Victory without occupation. Peace through precision strikes. No wonder Rutte's practically bowing at Trump's feet. This is amazing. This isn't American history. This isn't world history. This is human history being played out in real time. But watch closely. While praising Trump, Rutte also wanted unwavering support for Ukraine. Translation: endless billions for another proxy war. Trump ends wars. NATO extends them. Now we're talking about $1 trillion here. Let's do a little thought experiment. You know how much $1 trillion is? Imagine a football field with $100 bills stacked up 6 feet high. An entire football field with $100 bills stacked up 6 feet high. That's $1 trillion. But here's what matters. Should America keep playing sugar daddy to NATO's war machine, or follow Trump's path of peace through strength? Yes for Trump's way, no for NATO's wars. Let's hear it. Now, support real leadership. Grab your next news gear below. All right, let's go to the chat. All right, $1 trillion, $1 billion. Robert Lockhart says, I'll take 2, Brett. Jeremy Olson, yeah, you ladies talking of spanking Brett. Got him rolling. That's... Stop. Karen Finley, yes for spanking Brett. Stop. Robert Lockhart, we are all born ignorant, but we must work hard to remain stupid, says Benjamin Franklin. And I couldn't agree with you more. It seems like the more we live life, the more things should become clear. They say that if you're not liberal by 20, then you have no heart. But if you're not conservative by 40, then you have no head. I disagree with that. I disagree with that entirely. I mean, I've watched my little boy grow up. He's got a big brain on his shoulders. There's no reason why he should ever feel like, listen, this is what liberals do. They weaponize and monopolize compassion, mercy, charity, and some of the beautiful things about being a human being. They try to monopolize it with these stupid platitudes. Like if you're not, I understand the concept of it. If you're not liberal in your 20s, then you have no heart. Personally, I think a lot of people with no heart are liberal in their 20s. And to me, that mantra doesn't even make much sense. Okay, let's see what else. Raising our kids patriots. Robert Lockhart, agreed. I'll harken back to my own personal experience, but my child knows that this is the best country in the world. He knows the American flag. He can identify Trump's voice just by listening to his voice, because this is just what we do in this household. And he does a great Trump impersonation, by the way. It's really awesome. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is dead. He died like a dog. Like a dog. They heard him crying, I said, Abu, don't cry. Michael Jones, they don't monopolize it, they twist them. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, you are right. That's absolutely true. I agree with that. Sabrina says, shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Sabrina, thank you so much for sporting our gear, sporting our links. That is what the N3 Army is all about. Okay, they leaked classified intelligence. They lied to the American people. They tried to steal credit from our brave pilots who just pulled off the most devastating military strike in modern history. This is unlike anything that any civilization in human history has ever seen before. The Communist News Network and the New York Slimes are desperately spinning defeat from total victory because they can't stand that Trump just eliminated Iran's nuclear threat in just a couple hours. But the evidence is overwhelming. The bombs hit perfectly. It was like shooting a bullet inside of a sphincter from 240 miles away. And then three of them hit the bullseye perfectly. The facilities are obliterated. Iran's nuclear dreams are buried under millions of tons of rubble. And now the same media that called Hunter's laptop Russian disinformation, they want you to believe that Iran's nuclear program is just fine, that they're going to regenerate like a ChatGPT in just a couple months. They're not just wrong, they're basically committing treason. Wait until you see what really happened under those mountains. The truth will blow your mind. Now, just as Trump's military strikes turned back the clock on Iran's nuclear program, you can turn back the clock on aging with collagen. By 40, your body's collagen production drops significantly. That means wrinkles, saggy skin, crow's feet, joint pain. But there's a solution as powerful as those rubber baby bunker busters. Ageless multi-collagen delivers 5 key types of collagen from 4 premium sources, all hydrolyzed for maximum absorption. No clumping, no taste, just simple results. While Trump obliterates nuclear threats, obliterate the signs of aging. Get 51% off at healthwithgary.com. Plus, every order feeds a hungry child through nokidhungry.org. Your skin and your country both deserve strength. Now, just like collagen rebuilds your skin's foundation, Trump destroyed Iran's nuclear foundation permanently. And the media can't handle the truth. Let's start with what actually happened. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, love me some Rubio. He laid out the surgical precision of Trump's strikes. 3 specific targets, no regime change, just pure focus on eliminating the nuclear threat. Watch him explain the mission that changed everything.
The goal the president set out was 3 nuclear sites. He targeted them. He says, I want a one-off campaign in which we go in, wipe out 3 nuclear sites, hit them hard, and get out without any loss of life. And the mission was achieved, and without any escalation. And the mission was achieved. The truth of the matter is that happened on Saturday night. By Monday night, we had a ceasefire, so 48 hours later. So not only did this bold move by the president, and he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for taking this bold move, not only did this bold move have impact, but I actually think it helped end the conflict. It allowed Israel to say, okay, now the objectives that we wanted to see out of this operation have been achieved. And I think the president deserves a lot of credit. He had a defined mission. Said, this is what we're going to do. We're hitting 3 targets. We're not hitting regime people. We're not trying to overthrow the government. We're not looking to invade. We're going to hit. Our problem with Iran is with the nuclear program. We're going to hit the 3 sites that we've been negotiating over, and then we're going to move off the mark. And that's what we did.
Our problem with Iran is the nuclear program. And Trump solved that problem with devastating efficiency. Unfreaking believable. Guy's a master. You know, the technical details are staggering. Rubio revealed exactly what those 30,000-pound bunker busters accomplished. 12 massive bombs dropped with a pinpoint accuracy into underground facilities. Watch him demolish any doubt about the mission's success.
In Esfahan, there was this conversion site, which is how you turn this metal into something that's useful. That's wiped out. You can rebuild anything that's destroyed. You could if you wanted to, but it's completely wiped out. And so they can't do that today. Beyond that, all of the support structures around it as well. In Natanz, which is also an underground facility, that had already been destroyed. Basically, the Israelis have put a lot of damage on it. And then the United States went in with 2 additional heavy munitions that penetrated into the ground and did more damage. So it was already in bad shape and unusable, and now it's worse off. The hard one, the one that was really difficult, is Fordow, because it's buried underneath a mountain at about 200 to 300 meters underground, and meters or feet, I forget, 300 underground. It was deep. And there's no doubt in our minds it's very significant, substantial, lasting damage was done to their program. We will learn more and more about it, but the baseline is real damage was done. Of that, we're very confident. We dropped 12 of these things into these holes. I mean, it's not like we just did a couple and see how it went.
What an incredible operation. This is like Luke Skywalker destroying the Death Star. Unfortunately, Mark Hamill, the guy who played Luke Skywalker, turned out to be the most hardcore, repugnant liberals, like the most demagogic liberal that you could even imagine. But what we did in real life was what he did in the movies. We dropped 12 of these things into these holes. Isfahan's conversion facility completely wiped out. Natanz buried under rubble. Fordow, catastrophic damage 300 feet underground. But within hours, CNN published illegally leaked classified intelligence trying to downplay this historic victory. Watch Secretary Rubio expose their treasonous game of using criminal leakers to push this anti-Trump propaganda. Take a look.
CNN and the New York Times are reporting that early intel suggests Iranian nuclear facilities were not completely destroyed, and the Times is reporting that the nuclear program was only set back a matter of months. Now, look, I know it's obviously quite early. The president is vehemently denying the veracity of these reports, but can you give us, now that we've had a little bit of distance, the latest battle damage assessment?
Well, I can't talk to you about intelligence. I can also tell you that intelligence leaks are one of the most frustrating things anywhere, not just because you got somebody who has access to this putting stuff out there, but because it's so often mischaracterized. An intelligence report, for anyone who's ever seen it, sometimes is an assessment. Some analyst will make an assessment, or analysts will make an assessment. And in these leaks, what you typically have is someone who read it and then leaks it to the media, giving it the spin and the angle they want it to have because they've got some purpose. Embarrass the administration, they were against the action, whatever it may be. Let me tell you this. The Iranian program, the nuclear program today, looks nothing like it did just a week ago. The program today has been set behind significantly from where it was a week ago. It is in far worse shape today than it was a week ago because of U.S. actions and because some of the actions the Israelis took. So the bottom line is they are much further away from a nuclear weapon today than they were before the president took this bold action. That's the most important thing to understand. Significant, very significant, substantial damage was done to a variety of different components, and we're just learning more about it. Understand that most of the damage that occurred here in Fordow occurred deep underground. That's why we use penetrator weaponry to do that. So that's why I hate commenting on these stories, because often the first story is wrong and the person putting it out there has an agenda. And I would say that story is a false story, and it's one that really shouldn't be re-reported because it doesn't accurately reflect what's happening.
The Communist News Network never ceases to disgust me. You know, that is a false story. CNN lies exposed by the Secretary of State himself. Now, the president was furious about the ceasefire violations, but his anger turned into action. I mean, he just had to sleep it off, you know? The guy must be tired. You watch Trump explain how he personally intervened to maintain peace while calling out the media's attempts to undermine this amazing victory. Take a look.
To last forever, then both sides violated it. Iran broke the truce first, and then Israel hit back. Trump found out about it right before he left for Holland, and he wasn't even this mad after he got shot.
When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
On Air Force One, he dialed Netanyahu and barked at him. Sources say Trump was really angry, told him to knock it off. Unlike Biden, when Trump says don't, people listen. And the ceasefire's held since then. Iran's at its weakest point since the 80s. And Israel just cleaned out their whole neighborhood, and they should probably take the win. The question is, does Israel disobey Trump and assassinate the Ayatollah? Does he get couped? Or does he remain in power?
Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible.
You know, bunker busters are not the only thing that Trump is dropping. I mean, he's also dropping F-bombs as well as gigantic bunker buster bombs. You know, when Trump says, don't, people listen. You know, that's the difference between strength and the weakness in the Oval Office. Press Secretary Secretary Leavitt didn't hold back when confronting these lies. Watch her destroy the Communist News Network's narrative and reveal the FBI's investigation into these treasonous leaks. And that's what it is. It's treason.
I'd like
like to take a step back and just acknowledge the history that has been made in the course of the last week thanks to President Trump's strength. 5 days ago, the rogue Iranian regime possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon. And because of the decisive leadership of President Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to the United States and the world has been demolished because of the successful operation on Saturday night. And not only that, but within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic efforts.
All right, we need some love in the chat for our amazing, gorgeous press secretary, Carolyn Leavitt. She is the best press secretary that I have seen in my entire lifetime. Never seen one better than her. She is doing a bang-up job. She's totally crushing it. I'm extremely impressed. This was such a good pick. You know, the FBI is now investigating these criminal leaks. Watch as the press secretary, our amazing press secretary, confirm that justice is coming for those who betrayed America to hurt Trump. Take a look.
I am told by the FBI the leak already is being investigated, and it absolutely should be, because this was a top secret intelligence analysis that very few people in the United States government had access to see. And so I understand the FBI and the Department of Justice are already on this, as they should be.
Now, Trump himself unleashed on social media the scum who are trying to steal credit from our brave pilots. Watch the president defend our military heroes from the communist news network's disgusting, deplorable attacks.
Mr. President,
Yeah.
If the Iranians do rebuild, would the United States...
If they rebuild?
Would the United States strike again? And I have also a question about Russia.
But I'm not going to have to worry about that. It's gone for years. It's very tough to rebuild because the whole thing has collapsed. In other words, inside, it's all collapsed. Nobody can get in to see it because it's collapsed. You can't go in to see a room that has, 10 million tons of rock in it. And the tunnels are totally collapsed.
But if they rebuild?
Well, they've already looked at the tunnels. This was an unbelievable hit by genius pilots and genius people in the military, and they're not being given credit for it because we have scum that's in this group, and not all of you are. You have some great reporters, but you have scum. CNN is scum. MSDNC is scum. The New York Times is scum. They're bad people. They're sick. And what they've done is they're trying to make this unbelievable victory into something less. Now, even they admit that it was hit very hard, okay? But it wasn't hit hard. It was hit brutally, and it knocked it out. The original word that I use, I guess it got us in trouble because it's a strong word. It was obliteration. And you'll see that. And it's going to come out. Israel is doing a report on it now, I understand. And I was told that they said it was total obliteration. They have guys that go in there after the hit. And they said it was total obliteration. And, I don't want it for me. I want it for the pilots. I want it for the military. They did such a good job. If you were in the Situation Room with me, with the generals and all of the people that did such a good job, and then they get demeaned by these idiots at CNN who can't get ratings. The place is dying. Nobody wants to even waste their time going on their shows. So they form with the New York Times, who's dying also. Without Trump, you wouldn't have a New York Times.
I was waiting for the end of that clip, but he made the point, It's really funny how CNN sits there and plays these clips of Trump, like just totally bashing them, like CNN is scum. It's right there on CNN. The chyron is right there. But even they know that without Trump, it would just be a bunch of audio and video gear, like collecting dust in a warehouse somewhere. The only reason they're even still around is because they have Trump to talk about, which is like the total irony of this thing. Like, I mean, God forbid they actually support the guy or promote some of the things that he does, even the things that are good for America. They don't want that. And listen, this is the wild turn of events. You know, the press secretary delivered a final blow to CNN's fake news. Watch her confirm that even Iran and Israel agree Trump's strikes were devastatingly successful.
This was a low confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community. And it has been disputed by not just the United States, the president, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump. And she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
How can you not watch this woman work and not be smiling from ear to ear? What an amazing pick. I mean, even radical Muslims understand American strength at this point. Watch this shocking admission about what some would do if given power in America. Take a look.
Is that what we as Muslims want to implement here in the United States? We believe the Constitution should be replaced by the Quran.
First move that I will do, I will abolish the Constitution and I will establish the only logical and rational constitution, which is the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
When it comes to spreading Islam on a state level, on a societal level, that method prescribed is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed that the ones who don't accept the ruling of Islam, they must be fought. This is simply the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Listen, this goes back to the Antifa, the Trantifa riots. When you are sitting in your car and there is a raging crowd, a raging mob threatening to take your life, or whether it's the Ayatollahs in Iran threatening to nuke America and Israel, and they chant it every day, the best thing you have, the best idea that you can come up with is to just believe them. What you do from that matter, like after that point, is going to be up to you, but you have to believe them. These are not people that value the Constitution. These are not people that value what the founders brought us. Strangely, the leftists and these radical Muslims, they have the same exact ideology. They think that the Constitution is just a living document, you know, just depends. You know, but here's what your media won't tell you. When you drop a 30,000-pound bomb into underground facilities, physics takes over. The overpressure alone would destroy everything inside. The seismic shock collapses tunnels. The heat melts the equipment. Even if some structures remain, it's like saying that the Titanic is mostly intact at the bottom of the ocean, or that riot was mostly peaceful. But Iran knows the truth. And that's why they agreed to the ceasefire just 48 hours later. You don't sue for peace when your one major card, the one card you have to play, is still in play. Their nuclear program is not in play. You sue for peace when you got caught with your pants down and got a spanking from daddy. And the same media calling this a limited strike would have called D-Day an afternoon at the beach. They're not interested in truth. They're interested in undermining Trump's victories. But physics doesn't lie. Bomb damage doesn't lie. And Iran's sudden interest in peace, that doesn't lie either, but it kind of does. They got caught with their pants down. Daddy bent them over the knee, gave them a nice spanking, and now he's ready to talk Turkey. And believe me, all of us will be cradled in his ample bosom and held when the tears come. Now, if you got any value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. You know, this isn't just about bombs and rubber baby bunker busters. It's about treason in our own government, in our own media. When CIA desk jockeys leak classified intel to help Iran and hurt Trump, that's not whistleblowing. That's sedition. That is treason. These people would rather see Iran get nukes than see Trump get credit for bringing about peace. They would rather risk World War III than admit that Daddy has kept us safe. Every American should be infuriated right now. Our pilots executed a perfect mission, eliminated an existential threat, and came home in one piece. Instead of parades like they might have gotten 70 years ago, they get CNN calling them liars. Instead of medals, like they would have gotten 75 years ago, they get New York slimes minimizing their achievements. This is what the deep state does to patriots who actually serve their country. The leakers must be found, they must be charged, and they must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. No exceptions, no plea deals, maximum sentences. Do you think they would give our side any different treatment? Let me ask you, should leaking classified military intelligence carry the death penalty? Now, this is a tough question. You know, they used to do that when someone committed treason. It's not unheard of. Sound off in the chat. And make sure to support real journalism at our Next News merch shop. That's shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Now let's go to the chat. Please, just plain evil. Robert Crump, agree with you so much. Lisa Bellew, yes. Brett, thank you so much. I appreciate that. This is a tough job, but someone's got to do it. Booty Judge. Jeremy Olson said, Booty Judge would do it in a heartbeat. Bend them over. Hey, now. You might be right. This is a family show. Okay. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, from Robert Lockhart. This reminds me of the difference between liberals and conservatives. Conservatives want negative rights. That doesn't mean negative isn't bad. That means negative is as in a right is something that prevents other people from taking something away from you. A positive right is what the liberals want, which means something must be provided to you. Like you have a right to health care, a right to school, a right to a job, a right to Social Security, all that stuff. Negative rights involve things that cannot be taken away, like your freedom of speech, your gun, your due process, things that are ordained to you by God Almighty, things that other people cannot take away. That is one of the defining difference between conservatives and liberals. Conservatives just want the things that are theirs. Liberals want what is not theirs. To put it simply. $4 trillion. That's not a typo. That is how much money Trump's big, beautiful bill is about to put right back in American pockets while securing our border and crushing the deficit. The establishment swore it couldn't be done. You can't cut taxes and reduce the deficit, they said. You can't boost the economy and secure the border, they said. You can't help working families and small businesses at the same time, they said. Trump just proved them wrong on every count. $13,000 more in your pocket, illegal aliens kicked off Medicaid, the border wall funded, the big, beautiful wall with the big, beautiful door. I remember that. And the biggest deficit reduction in American history. This uniparty is in panic, total panic, because Trump just delivered what they've been promising for decades. Don't blink. Trump's big, beautiful bill gives America the economic energy to dominate, and the numbers are absolutely staggering. The establishment media doesn't want you to understand what is really in this bill. They're terrified that you will realize that Trump just delivered the largest tax cuts and deficit reduction in history at the same time. Watch as the NEC director, Kevin Hassett, drops a truth bomb that has Washington insiders literally running scared. This changes everything about how we fund our government. Take a look.
We just spoke with Maya McGinnis from the Committee for a Responsible Budget, who continues to say that there could be more cuts to get us out of this 10-year expectation that we're going to have deficits of $2.2 trillion a year and debt of almost $60 trillion by 2035.
Look, the bottom line is that if we get 3% growth, then we're going to have $4 trillion more revenue than the CBO score, which means that already the deficit's going down by trillions. The CBO has told us that the tariffs that are already in place, President Trump's tariffs that are already in place, are going to give us extra revenue of $2.8 trillion over 10 years. And the DOGE cuts, people forget about the DOGE cuts. They don't count in the big, beautiful bill because you can't have discretionary spending in a reconciliation package. We've now accumulated DOGE cuts that we can send to the House and the Senate to send back and to give the people their money back of $160 billion. That's almost $2 trillion over 10 years. And so this is the biggest deficit reduction, the most fiscally responsible package in the history of American fiscal policy.
Yeah.
And so anybody who claims to speak for fiscal responsibility and opposes this bill and our actions is just pushing partisan propaganda. This is the biggest deficit reduction package in history by far.
Do you believe...
That's not political spin. That's just a mathematical reality hitting the swamp like a sledgehammer. But it gets better. Small business owners across America are already calculating what this means for their workers and their growth, and it's incredible. These aren't Wall Street fat cats. These are Main Street job creators who have been crushed by President Biden's inflation. It's hard to call him president. I mean, who knows who was president during those 4 years? We're going to find out, though. Watch this Indiana business owner explain how Trump's tax cuts will directly benefit his 80 employees and American manufacturing. This is economic populism in action. Take a look.
She pushes back on critics who say the benefits help wealthier businesses and will help Wall Street instead of Main Street.
Working families and small businesses will face a $4 trillion tax increase if this bill doesn't pass. Hardworking families will see $13,000 more in take-home pay if this bill passes. They will avoid a 15% tax increase if the bill fails.
Business owners like Olson Custom Designs owner Mitch Olson says the bill could help them expand faster. The business serves the aerospace, medical, and defense industries.
It just helps us, allows us to reinvest back into our company, makes us more competitive on the national and global work scale. It's an arms race in our industry with technology, so the bigger, better, faster pieces of equipment we can have, we can bring that technology into Indiana and help support the economy in our state.
Olson is particularly interested in how the bill could help his 80 employees.
That savings would go directly to them and then get fed back out into the economy. I think it's a no-brainer for the growth.
The Trump administration hopes the bill will head to the Senate floor this week.
These are real workers getting real raises because Trump kept his promises to the forgotten men and women of this country. The border security component has the open borders lobby in full meltdown. Not only does this bill fund the wall, it kicks illegal aliens off taxpayer-funded benefits. Watch Representative Marionette Miller Meeks expose the shocking truth about illegals on Medicaid that the media literally won't report. Your tax dollars have been funding benefits for people who shouldn't even be here. That ends.
I was scrolling
now.
through your Facebook this morning. On your Facebook page, you said that this bill strengthens Medicaid by not allowing illegal immigrants to use Medicaid. And I do want to note undocumented people are not eligible for Medicaid. So what do you say to Iowans who might lose their benefits?
Well, what I say is that you're correct. Undocumented illegal aliens are not supposed to be on Medicaid, but yet they are. The government and the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, agrees that they are. There are states that are allowing them on. Even Governor Newsom in California said that they should revisit having illegal aliens on Medicaid because it is costing, I think, again, and you can fact check this, it's costing California about $12 billion. But remember that the federal government takes up pays for 90% on the Medicaid expansion on the FMAP, the shared portion of it. So we're absolutely strengthening Medicaid for those for whom Medicaid was intended. So our provisions that we put in were very thoughtful in support of what you just said. Illegal immigrants are not supposed to be on Medicaid, so we're not going to allow illegal immigrants on Medicaid. The federal government is not going to cover that.
What has been happening is completely and utterly obscene. It's incredible that it has taken this long for us to get a hold of this kind of situation. It's simply not right. You know, we get pillaged with our taxes. You know, this country started because of a 2% tax on a breakfast beverage. Okay, that's how far we have come from the founders of this country. A 2% tax on a breakfast beverage. Now you get taxed for breathing, minus the breathing part. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum reveals another game changer hidden in the bill, using federal land to secure the border. 41% of our southwestern border runs through federal property that has been left wide open for cartels and traffickers. Watch Burgum explain how Trump's bill weaponizes that land for border security. This is strategic.
Few people understand that the 41% of the southwestern border is land that is managed by Interior. That's why we worked with the Department of Defense with this Roosevelt Reservation. We transferred a 60-foot strip of land along all the New Mexico border and into California. Theodore Roosevelt thought of this 120 years ago, which is, hey, at some point people may want to be smuggling stuff is the words that used in his term, but whether it's people or drugs. But it's not just the 1,000 or so Iranians that we know are in the country illegally that came through. There's a number that is unknown, the unknown number of people that were unapprehended, came through undetected, weren't detained, weren't interviewed. That number is also in the millions. And so it's a real risk for our country. And again, President Trump has done a fantastic job of shutting it down. And the big, beautiful bill has got dollars in to secure our border. And you don't have national security if you don't have border security. President Trump understands that, and he's doing something about it.
What I find to be absolutely insane is that, we like to talk about the MS-13 and the Tren de Aragua, these South American gangs who are making its way in through our southern border. They're not the only ones. We've got the same Islamists who chant death to America, death to Israel. They're also leaking their way in, making a home here, taking our benefits, massaging our school boards so that our public school system infects our children with this weird, strange, globalist, anti-America propaganda. Using propaganda to encourage our children to cut off their genitalia. I mean, while the rest of the world is breeding like rabbits, we're not having as many kids as the rest of the world, right? First of all, if we don't kill them in the womb, we castrate them after they're born. If this isn't some weird this is the silent war against America. The thing that we don't really understand. We think this is just compassion. We need to be compassionate to the trans kids and all that stuff. This is not what they think. This is not what our enemies think. They understand the real fight here. That we are not, that they do not want us to live. They want us to either die from external forces or they want us to implode on ourselves. You know, Theodore Roosevelt created the legal framework 120 years ago, and Trump is finally using it to stop this kind of invasion, this exact kind of invasion. It's not just the drugs. It's not just the crime. It's the silent way that our enemies have decided to destroy us from the inside out. You know, why drop a bomb on us when we'll literally just unalive ourselves? Trump is finally using it to stop this kind of invasion and protect American sovereignty. Now, let's talk real numbers that affect real Americans. If this bill doesn't pass, working families face a $4 trillion tax increase. That's $13,000 less in every American's pocket. That's your kid's college fund. That's savings for retirement. That's your new car. That's your American dream being stolen by the swamp, the America haters who live here in America, and also by our foreign enemies who make common cause with them. The left, the Islamists, the communists. It's weird. I mean, it seems like a motley crew, but they have all made common cause to bring this country to its end. But when this big, beautiful bill passes, and it will pass, here's what happens. Your taxes go down, your take-home pay goes up, small businesses can hire more workers. American manufacturing roars back, the deficit shrinks, the border gets secured. The big, beautiful wall stands tall. Illegal aliens lose their taxpayer-funded benefits. And this is what America First looks like in legislation. Not empty promises, not focus group talking points. Real policy that puts real money in real Americans' pockets while really securing our nation. The establishment Republicans who might vote against this, well, they might be showing their true colors. I mean, we can all tinker around the margins as far as conservatives go, but to derail this, you know, I believe it says something about not just your character, but which side you're on. You know, they would rather virtue signal about the deficit while letting it grow than support Trump's plan that actually cuts it. They'd rather keep the border open than admit that Trump was right. They'd rather see you pay higher taxes than give Trump a W. Every American needs to understand this is not just another bill. This is an economic revolution, the one that Trump promised us. It's the biggest middle finger to the establishment since the Boston Tea Party. And it proves you can cut taxes, you can secure the border, you can reduce the deficit, and you can help working families all at the same time. None of these goals and values are mutually exclusive. The swamp said it was impossible. The experts said that it wouldn't work. The media said it was a fantasy. And Trump says, hold my beer. If you got any value from this report, please tap subscribe. My final thought is next. This is it, patriots. The big, beautiful bill is Trump's economic nuclear weapon against the deep state. $4 trillion in tax relief. Remember, $1 trillion is $100 bills stacked up 6 feet high across an entire football field. 4 football fields filled with cash, 6 feet high. We're not talking ones, we're not talking fives, we're not talking 20s. We're talking Benjamin Franklin's here. Trillions more in deficit reduction. The border finally secured. Illegal alien freeloaders kicked off our benefits. This is not just policy, it's a revolution. And every rhino, Republican in name only, who votes against this is declaring war on working Americans. It's complicated because I have a lot of respect for some of these fellows. But I really think they're doing it wrong. They're choosing illegal aliens over citizens, debt over prosperity, the swamp over the people. Remember their names. They're telling you exactly who they serve, and it isn't you. We need to get this thing passed. But here's what terrifies them the most. Trump proved that you can govern for the people and actually win. You don't need lobbyists. You don't need corporate donors. You just need some testicular fortitude. You don't need the establishment's permission. You just need the courage to fight for Americans first, last, and always. The question that exposes everything. Should any Republican who votes against the big, beautiful bill be primaried? Let us know in the chat, yes or no. Should they be primaried? We want to hear it. Let it roar. Stand with us. Grab your Next News gear below at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. All right, let's go to the chat. All right, let's see what we got here. Trump doesn't drink beer. I think his beverage of choice is Diet Coke. Root beer, maybe. Mark, I think you're right. That literally occurred to me the moment I said that. I was like, well, Trump doesn't drink beer, does he? Antonia, only E.T. was an alien and he learned to speak English. Incredible point, and I truly believe that if you cannot read our Constitution in English, then citizenship should be denied to you. You cannot. And listen, English is a complicated language. I get it, but this is a complicated world that we live in. Not my fault, not my problem. That's a YP, not an MP. Let's see. Actually, the moment is my 65. The moment it's 65. My maintenance guy just received it, and he's 65. I think that is a private message that I wasn't even supposed to read. Jeremy Olson said, shouldn't have to keep paying taxes on a house you already paid off. I completely agree with you 100%. We're actually dealing with some stuff over here down in Florida, but this is one of those things that we've got to keep an eye on. Patricia Duff says, absolutely yes, Brett. I agree with you entirely. We are made wise not by the recollection of our past, but the responsibility of our future. George Bernard Shaw says, Robert Lockhart. I agree with you. And Robert Lockhart, thank you so much for coming in and always giving us the best quotes in history that are absolutely perfectly germane to everything that we're going through right now. We're going to give the answer to the trivia question here. The answer to our trivia question is, let's put it up. In 1987, President Reagan famously said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, at which location that would later become symbolic of American strength, defeating communist oppression. The obvious answer is A, the Berlin Wall at Brandenburg Gate. Reagan's bold demand in 1987 showed that American strength defeating oppression, just as NATO demands show strength bringing accountability today. Patriots, what we have witnessed today isn't just news. It's the complete transformation of American power on the world stage. We started with NATO finally bowing to Trump's demands after decades of freeloading. 5% of GDP, not a request, not a suggestion, but a requirement that will bring trillions to our collective defense. Remember, when they laughed at Trump for asking for 3%, now they're calling him daddy and thanking him for the privilege of paying their fair share, 5%. We exposed how the Syrian people are literally putting up billboards thanking President Trump, not burning American flags, thanking us. Because Trump proved that you don't need 20 years war to project strength. I mean, a couple tweets will do. You just need precision, power, and the wisdom to know when you have won. The military-industrial complex is watching their endless war machine grind to a halt, and they are terrified. We revealed the total obliteration of Iran's nuclear program and the treasonous media's attempt to cover it up. The Communist News Network and the New York Slimes, the scum, they would rather aid America's enemies than admit that Trump delivered the most spectacular and successful military strike in modern history. Those leakers, they're not journalists. They're enemy agents, and they should be prosecuted as such. And we broke down the big, beautiful bill that puts $13,000 back in working families' pockets while securing our border and crushing the deficit. The same establishment that said it couldn't be done is watching Trump do it all, and they are mad. They are mad as hell. Now, to everyone who sent in those super chats and Rumble rants, you are this show. Your voices matter. Your support keeps independent media alive when big tech and corporate media want us utterly silenced. You are not just viewers. You are digital warriors in the fight for truth. And we appreciate you deeply. You know, this is what winning looks like. Not the managed decline that the establishment had planned for us, not the slow surrender to China or Russia or Iran or North Korea, not the endless wars that enrich defense contractors while killing our children. Real victories, real strength, real results. But remember, they're not going to stop fighting. The deep state, the media, the rhinos, the globalists, they're all going to come at Trump harder than ever because he's exposing their entire corrupt system. They'll leak, they'll lie, and they will do anything to stop American resistance. And this is why we need you. Share this show. Tell your friends. Text it to bypass the algorithm. Join our memberships. Buy our merch. Sport it when you go out places. Shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Every shirt you wear, every hat you put on your head, every episode you share, every tweet that you share, every donation is a blow against the propaganda machine. Now, this is week 22 of Trump's return. It's not just successful, it's been revolutionary. This is crazy. I can't believe we are right here at the epicenter of this. It's wild. NATO has been transformed. Iran's nuclear dreams are crushed. Syria, of all places, is choosing peace. The border is getting secured. Working families are getting relief. This is the Trump doctrine in full effect, and it's only getting started. Can't believe this is only week 22. My name is Brett Siegel, always broadcasting to you live from my safe space down here in northern Florida, where I'm in a bunker, free from your bigotry, racism, hatred, microaggressions, patriarchy, and the rubber baby bunker busters, filling in for the great Gary Franchi. And this has been The Raw Feed. Stay strong, stay informed, and keep fighting for America. We will see you next time. That's if the deep state doesn't shut us down. Have a great night.